Oh, hi there. Just busy checking my notes because obviously things in the Nancy Guthrie case are continuing to develop. Michael Bryant here, Linda Kenny Bodden, just a much better, but just a little under the weather, and she's going to be here all next week all by herself. So we said just relax. Jodine Weber coming up. New note: is it legit in the Nancy Guthrie case? Don't go away.
Justice, where are you? Michael and Linda are here.
Love you, Linda.
The world is justice. Will we ever find justice?
The courthouse the other day in the hallway, you're singing
Will
"Oh
we
Happy
know
Day."
justice when we see it? To be and Damila lead the way, hoping justice will win the day. Listener clues, finding justice where we can. Join us now, we're on the run. Justice is waiting, we'll see it done.
And hey, folks, again, welcome to Justice Served TV. Michael Bryant here, Linda Kenny Bodden, convalescing just one more day. She'll be back with you, taking care of the entire load all of next week. So, yeah, we just heard there was another note in the Nancy Guthrie case. Apparently, the cops are going back to Nancy Guthrie's house, clearing everybody out for investigative purposes, whatever that means. And I have Jodine Weber coming up. Stay right where you are. Got just a couple things I need to do. Yes, contractually obligated to do our rip and read here. Timothy Busfield, as you know, he had charges against him, but they also were using in New Mexico, not far from, it's the next door state from Arizona. They do a grand jury there, so now he's officially been indicted by the grand jury on 4 counts of criminal sexual conduct with a child. He denies all of those charges and believes it's all about revenge because the twin boys that are claiming he did something inappropriate lost their jobs in the show they were working on, and apparently dad not happy about that. So in a nutshell. One other thing, Luigi Mangione, there's this big battle between the feds and the state as to who's going to get to go after this guy first for the murder of Brian Thompson, the United Healthcare CEO. A lot of places, most places, they cooperate, but this is New York. We don't cooperate with nobody. And so you got the feds fighting with the state as to who's going to be first. And well, now the state court has said, I don't care what the feds are doing. We're going. And they set a date, June 8th will be the Luigi Mangione state charges in the death of Brian Thompson. We'll see. We'll see if that actually happens or not. Why can't they just get along, Jodine? Why can't these folks just get along?
They can't be like us, Michael.
I know. What is the deal? Anyway, everybody wants a pound of flesh from Luigi. Some of his supporters want a different pound of flesh, but that's for another day. So, before we get into the latest, which is basically what I suggested, there's another note that went to KOLD, the same station that got one of the original notes. I'm sure Harvey Levin at TMZ is mad because I guess he didn't get one or didn't get it soon enough to tout it.
Right. Or, broadcast it before he bothers to call law enforcement about it.
Yeah. Anyway, so again, real, imagined, somebody just trying to stir things up. Somebody wants a little attention. Who knows? I've not been shy about suggesting that it's all bogus. It's unfortunate that it's putting the family through additional torture. If there is something happening behind the scenes with a real contact, I think that's great. But why then are the families putting out videos which basically say, talk to us, we're here?
Right.
Why would you do that if there was something legitimate in the works?
Right. I don't believe there is anything legitimate. And I think the whole sequence of these ransom letters has been very, very odd. First off, why would you wait so many days before sending them?
Yeah.
And then not have any sort of communication as to how to follow through. Having 2 different deadlines, is that related to the fact they were going to do crypto and you can only put so much Bitcoin in a wallet? I didn't understand multiple deadlines. That was unusual to me. So I really think it is playing on these poor people's emotions when they are just worried sick. The other night, their pain was just palpable. It literally just came right through the TV screen. And I think it's distracting a lot of resources. It's distracting the media from focusing on what we should be focusing on. There's so many aspects to this case that really could be educational for the public that we could talk about. And if there is one benefit to it, it's that law enforcement is in communication with the Guthrie family. The family has apparently, according to law enforcement at the press conference, done everything they have been asked. That was said at the press conference yesterday. And so I think it's good that there is ongoing dialogue between the family and law enforcement. I'd be worried if there was a stiff arm or a wall went up. I think it's good in case the family needs any victim witness services, any sort of counseling, that sort of thing, crisis negotiation, things of that nature. But I also think it's good for law enforcement because investigations are fluid and new information is constantly being developed. And they may need to go back to the family and ask about people. Hey, do you remember this worker that worked on her house 6 months ago? Do you remember this person that she terminated a year and a half ago? Things of that nature.
So, now that, at least we can see that there is activity ramped up at Nancy Guthrie's house again,
Mhm.
and they've cleared out media suggesting it's as serious as it's ever been, I guess, because they were pretty loose early on about releasing the crime
Yes.
scene. And even when they returned
Yes.
for a couple hours and put the tape up, they didn't shoo anybody away. You could still be
Right.
hanging out there. What's your speculation on why they're intent on clearing the area?
I'm afraid they're gonna go in with, prongs and look for earth that's been disturbed to see if
Mm.
she's been buried on the property.
So,
Even though they've had dogs out there,
yeah, twice now. Yeah.
twice, I think there's something they don't want the media to see.
Hmm.
And, the grid search the other day with the canine on the premises, perhaps, perhaps they have an area they wanna go back and look at.
Mm. Yeah.
And they have radar systems that we use on the evidence response team that they can use this machine, and it looks almost like a snowblower, but you roll it over the ground
Ground
and
penetrating radar. Is that what
right,
it
and
is?
it'll show you underneath the surface if there's been disturbance and if, God forbid, there's a body under there.
Ugh. Now, these days, and I've seen them used in this story, and I've used them myself, drones are, everywhere. So it'd
Right,
be interesting to me if they do try to enforce some sort of airspace above, because, you,
right,
you may clear the streets and I'll just fly my drone right on
right,
over the building and the area. And right now it
right.
is 4 o'clock there, so still some daylight left.
Right. I mean, it used to be when I was in news years ago, the helicopters would go up. Well,
Right.
now they don't even need to do that. They just
Yeah.
put the drones up. So, and it has been very good for us. We've gotten to see a lot. We've gotten to see the property, we've gotten to see them searching. But I do think if they are looking for something like her body, then they may ban that space.
Yeah, I think that's going to be
Mhm.
telling if that's what happens. Before we get too much further, because this was released just last night when we were wrapping up, the deadline under Tucson time was 5 o'clock there. It was 7 o'clock here. We just wrapped up. So this
Mhm.
Cameron Guthrie plea, we didn't get to it. So I just want to run that again. I'm sure most people have seen it, but I'm going to get your take on it. And I see the spinning wheel of death there. I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let's see if I.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother,
I'm sorry. Can you hear that? Yes? No?
I can.
Okay,
Yes.
good. I'm never
Yes.
sure. Okay. Let me rack this back here
Yeah.
again. Here we go.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you. We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward. But first, we have to know that you have our mom. We want to talk to you and we are waiting for contact.
So
This is Cameron
he's
Guthrie.
clearly
I'm speaking for the
reading
Guthrie.
his note, and it's almost like a response to what the reaction was when the family was going through their notes, because Annie, the sister of Savannah, had a little part,
Mhm.
and obviously the main reading was Savannah, and
Right.
and the brother didn't really do much, and people were like, "How come he didn't say anything? I wonder what's going on." So it's almost as if this is his response to that. I'm here. I got something to
Right.
say, but he said
Mhm.
basically the same thing that Savannah had said, which was, "Here we are. Uh,
Right.
come talk to us," which again
Right.
to me reinforces the bogusness of any sort of letter that has come out prior.
Correct. Correct. I would agree with that. I think the first night it was scripted. He does have a very alpha male, strong presence. He's got a deep
He looks
voice.
mad. He looks very
He looks
mad.
mad. He was closing his eyes repeatedly. And so I think on the 1% chance, if even that is legitimate, they didn't want to do anything to offend or to come across too aggressive towards the ransom writer. I spoke with one of the retired FBI profilers yesterday. Actually communicated with her, texted, and we were talking about how that was crafted and that it was very much geared towards an emotional plea, which would seem to indicate to us that it's someone that the family may know and that you're trying to play on their emotions and try to remember this is Nancy. This is Nancy. She's a mom. She's a mama. She's a mommy. They use
They
multiple
did.
words
Mhm.
to try to get this person, whoever person or persons, whoever it may be, to think of the victim as a human and not as an object. Now, had they thought it was some psychopath, that wouldn't have been their approach. They would have gone more towards, you have control, you're in power, what can we do for you? It would be all focused on the perpetrator, giving him the attention, because going the emotional route, or him or her, the attention, going the emotional route could have backfired had they done that. If it was someone that they didn't think knew them or had a contact, an association with them. So, and there were also lines in that first video that are almost identical to that Silence of the Lamb scene with the senator. Talk to her. And there was another line that was eerily similar to the
Oh,
movie.
wow.
So that was
Wish I
another
had
thing
known.
we
I would have
talked
pulled that
about.
out. I'm
Yes.
gonna find that now.
Look that up. Yeah,
Okay.
talk to her. And there's one other line that was very similar. So that's concerning. But now this new video last night from Cameron, I think it was like, now it's his turn to speak. I think it was
Mhm.
very well crafted, going back and forth between Savannah and her sister, because I think it was designed to show, hey, this isn't just Savannah as an object or entity either. She's got family that are normal human beings. They had a line in there about, we're just mere humans.
Yeah.
And I think that was by design. But now I think last night they wanted Cameron to speak and be a little bit more forceful. Like, all right, are we doing something here or not?
Mhm.
Because, I mean, clearly you could see the pain this family is going through. It was like torture. It was watching people being tortured.
Yeah, yeah, it really was. It was painful. Anybody knows
Mhm.
her, she's an amazing person, Savannah.
Mhm.
And I've seen her in some pretty stressful situations. Obviously, nothing compared to this, but she's solid.
Mhm.
She's
Right.
to see her that wrecked. It's hard. So,
Mhm.
so now you have these two home videos that are asking for the perpetrators, come on, chat,
Right.
come out. And now we have an alleged second letter from maybe the same person, maybe not. We don't know. It just feels like there's this opportunity to toy with the family.
Correct.
Not from the perpetrator, who maybe, who knows, they may be done and gone.
Mhm.
But just from this, it's like people have to have something. We got to have something here. Let's latch on to this and turn it into maybe more than it is. And you don't really give a lot of thought to the wreckage you're leaving behind with the family. I don't
Correct.
understand that.
Correct. So it really, now I've heard there was information provided about the location of the Apple Watch within the home, suggesting it would be someone that would have that knowledge. So that seemed to give it possibly some credibility. There was also been some reporting that it was written by people or someone who resides in and around Tucson and has familiarity with that area, that proximity. But it'll be really interesting to see if we find out if this new letter that was just received in the past hour or so by the television station, if there is proof of life included in it, if there is information included that only Nancy would know, something of that nature.
Yeah, and
We'll see.
even that. Let's think about that from your FBI perspective. And Savannah obviously mentioned it in her note that these days, you can whip up something like that
Right.
that looks
Right.
pretty damn real. So a letter with a statement of something that only Nancy might know is not all that helpful because that could have been learned in the last 6 days.
Right.
Uh,
That
and
doesn't
she's
mean
no
she's alive
longer
now. Right.
exactly. So what
Right.
do you have to see, considering all the technological changes that are out there? What sells you on proof of life?
I would want to live stream. I want to have a
Mm,
conversation with her. I want a live conversation. Everybody's got Zoom. Put her on a Zoom, put her
hmm,
on something where I can ask her a question and she has to respond. Because like you said, I mean, even if they made a video and she says it's February 6th, 2026, the time is 3 p.m. Well, that doesn't mean she's alive at 6 p.m. So I think it would have to be something of that nature for me. That's what I would require.
yeah. And even at the most sophisticated level, and I know this because I played around with it in context of programming shows, AI is getting to the point where you can have a conversation with AI.
Well, yes, yes.
You know,
Yes, I mean, the deepfake videos are unbelievable, and the AI capabilities, it's just, it's scary. It really
mhm,
is scary.
yeah, it is. And so, as an FBI agent who is now, let's say, 5 days into this, 6 days into
Mhm,
it, and there's been sort of up to this latest notice, a kind of a cone of silence. Even yesterday's presser, a couple of tidbits of information, nothing crazy. A lot of the stuff had already been either reported or speculated upon. What's the
mhm.
FBI doing right now?
So I think what they're doing is they're going over tooth and nail to see what has been done, what they want to redo. I know they recanvassed the neighborhood, both Nancy's neighborhood, Annie's neighborhood. They want to make sure their T's are crossed and their I's are dotted, that every neighbor has been interviewed for any observations, anybody strange in the neighborhood in the past several weeks. Have you observed anyone loitering, trespassing? What sort of contractors or service providers have been knocking on your doors, wanting to, install different solar panels or even camera systems or things of that nature? I think, quite frankly, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes on the digital
Mm,
side and on the cell phone side. Now that we have that timeline, that really distinct timeline that was revealed yesterday at the press conference, they're going to be focusing in from 1:47 or so, give or take 5-10 minutes before that time, to about the 2:30 time period. That 40 to 45-minute window in there, that's the crucial time. Somebody came to that residence and removed that front doorbell camera. Now, they're gonna try to see. I understand she didn't have a subscription to her
right,
Nest camera system, so
right.
because of that, there wasn't, a clip that went back to the cloud, and so that was overwritten, but that seems to say to me, well, that's someone who knows she doesn't have a subscription.
Ah,
Who
hmm.
would know that? So the FBI is going to look into that. Who knew about her camera systems? When was that doorbell installed? I saw online where she was on like a Nextdoor app saying she wanted to get cameras to look at wildlife. Now that was
Hmm.
back in November. And I found that to be very curious. Did that prompt someone? Did they see that and say, oh, here's this elderly lady who has camera systems, but just to look at wildlife, perhaps somebody sold her camera systems, but told her, well, if all you're going to do is look at wildlife, you don't need to set up a subscription. I would look into that.
Hmm.
I think it's very curious that someone had the confidence to go up and take that doorbell camera off, knowing that up until it's disconnected, it would transmit that image. There would be some recording or some capture of an image. And you only don't worry about that unless you know it's not being backed up.
What if you're
So I
naive?
think the FBI is looking at that.
Okay, what if you're naive
I
and
don't think that way. Well,
yeah,
that's
and so
true.
you just think,
You could be a stupid
camera in
criminal.
my hand, it not recording, it's not captured anywhere else.
Right.
Um,
Well, and that goes to the time frame because typically criminals don't stick around for a long time. So is the 40 to 45-minute window because someone waited to see if disconnecting that doorbell camera would trigger a law enforcement response, or was the camera removed and then somebody went in the house right away?
mm,
And
yeah,
if you noticed at the press conference, they were very cagey about what they would and would not say. They were very careful about picking their words. And sometimes it's what they don't say that's more
mhm,
important than what they do say. And they would not answer the question about forced entry or not. So I think that might be a tip off to
yeah.
us.
Even more than that, the sheriff was annoyed that that was out there. He said, "I don't know where this forced entry came from, but we have not confirmed that." Now, he wasn't denying it either. He was just saying
Right.
wherever that information came from, it was not us. We didn't confirm it. And if you look at that front door as best you can from the video, looks okay. You know,
Right.
it doesn't look broken in, and we've also heard that the back door was, quote, "open." I don't know if that means just unlocked or actually open.
Right.
Um, but if there is truly no forced entry, then what are you thinking?
Well, then you have to say who's got keys? Who knows how to get in this house without breaking into a door or breaking into a window? And so the FBI, they will interview. They're going to interview all the family, every service provider to the property, any pool hand, any gardener, any cleaning lady, anyone like that. Where are the keys? How do you access this property? Who formerly worked at this property? They're going to look at that. They're going to see what kind of access is there. And then, of course, we don't know what was found inside the residence, really.
Right.
How extensive was the crime scene internally? How much blood was lost inside the home? Based on what we see outside, it looks like a bloody nose, perhaps a cut to a finger, but we're not seeing pools of blood. So that was a little bit more reassuring. But at the same time, you've got an injured victim that no one has seen for 6 days. So now,
Yeah.
obviously, the longer this goes on, the more dire the situation. And of course, she has medical issues. She requires medication. So I think a good, thorough interview of all the key players, the family. And here's the thing, even though Savannah Guthrie is one of the biggest television stars, every family has their strange nephews, their strange cousins, the one that just can't get their act together or keep a job. They're going to ask the family that. Who's coming to her for money? Who's your problem child in your family? Do you
Mm.
have anyone that you have concerns about? I also think yesterday when they went back to her home, it looked to me like the FBI left with her computer. And I
Ah.
think that is a wealth of information potentially. I am highly suspect.
And what
What
did
was
that tell
her
you?
financial?
What is that?
I think they're going to look for a couple things. I think they're going to look at her finances. Did she have an accountant? Was she being abused financially? Was somebody skimming out of her accounts? Was there some sort of elder fraud going on that was about to be exposed and someone felt they had to shut her up? I think they're going to look to see, was she on any social media apps looking for romance or companionship? Was there any sort of suitor that was in her life that may have had a reason she rejected or didn't want to see anymore? We haven't heard anything about that. I would look into that. I would also want to look into her email communications, any sort of correspondence, any sort of did anybody come to her house to give her a quote on anything and then was able to case the place ahead of time? Even if it was something like, oh, I'll come seal your pool deck or something. Well,
Mm,
you can walk around, or, I can clean out your air vents, anything like that. I'd want to see if there's an appointment like that. And then I'd also want to find out from the family and those closest to her. A lot of times with the elderly, their friends start to die off, and they become almost like surrogate mothers or grandmothers
mm,
to their friends' children. And there could be someone that's so and so's son or so and so's daughter that, hey, hey, Aunt Nancy, can you help me? Can you lend me some money? That those are the kinds
mm.
of things you want to look for. Who has their hands out? You want to look to see, is there any insurance policies? Was there any pressure on her by anyone to change the signatories on her bank accounts? Any sort of establishment of a trust, transferring property into somebody else's name? Anything like that could be a motivation.
Yeah, to your point about age and how people perceive things, Colleen
Mhm.
Itchy with with her horse. I'm blowing this. Itchy with her horse rescue. She's also from a different era. Someone come onto the door, needs some help. She might just let him in, and more
That's
innocent
right.
thought.
And another thing about the elderly, if they get caught in a scam, oftentimes they may not tell their family
Mm.
because they're embarrassed by it. So I think the FBI is going to look, did she go down a wormhole and then lose some money, or, offer to meet with people, or say, I'm going to call my daughter and she's a lawyer. And, they're going to look for things like that.
Yeah, it looks like our buddy Kyle Sharkey is channeling Brian Enton, saying the second note went to KOLD, which we mentioned, it's one of the three locations the first note went to. IP address is not the same IP address. Let's talk about that as the
Okay.
initial note, but it appears the sender used the same type of secure server. Thank you, sir. Thank both of you, sirs.
Mhm.
I use a VPN quite
Okay.
often.
Mhm.
Tell us what that is, how it might affect an IP or the ability to locate a device.
Well, in layman's terms, it helps you basically
Hide.
hide your IP
Yes.
address.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially, I mean, in a
Yeah.
nutshell, that's what it does. And it bounces it around, and it makes it very hard for people like the FBI to track you. And so that shows somewhat of premeditation.
Does that go along with any sort of tech savviness with the Bitcoin reference, if there is
I
some
I do
legitimacy to
think
that?
so. I do think so. I think when we see a lot of our frauds, a lot of times, granted, I've been retired now almost 6 years, but even when I was still active duty, Bitcoin and the crypto world, a lot of criminals were going that way because they thought it couldn't be traced. Now it is harder to trace. It's not entirely impossible, but I know one of my last cases right before I retired, I was on surveillance at a gas station, and it was a drug case, but I noticed all these elderly women in their 70s and 80s coming to this gas station in their luxury cars, very nice vehicles, dressed to the hilt, nice handbags. And I'm like, what are they doing in this part of town? What are they doing? And it was one after another.
Hmm.
Well, I went into the convenience store part of the gas station, and these women had been caught up in romance schemes online and told, send me Bitcoin, send me crypto, and then I'll be able to fly in and we can go to dinner or we can go to Paris. And all these women fell for it. And
Oh
it was
my
a
God.
huge scam. So those kinds of things do happen. And there are criminals that do use crypto or Bitcoin, and they have the ability to convince even these elderly women, okay, I can only take Bitcoin. I can't
Yeah.
take a check. You can't Venmo me. And they fall for it.
So even to these folks are, and I'll use the word loosely, desperate enough that they will try to comply, even if it's a
Mhm.
technology they have no idea about
Yes.
and
And
have
I
to be
remember,
coached through it.
yes, I mean, I remember at that time, 6 years ago, there were a lot of FBI agents who didn't understand crypto at that time. I mean, if that's not your lane and
No,
what you
there's
work daily,
when somebody
they don't
starts
know it.
saying blockchain, and then I go, "Meh," and I've owned Bitcoin. I have my
Like,
little
how do you
wallet here
mine it?
somewhere. It's just
Right.
like, yeah, I don't Yeah, do I need a
Yeah.
bigger shovel to mine it, or
Yes,
how?
exactly.
No, I mean, so I
Exactly.
know just enough to be dangerous, and I played around with it early on. Then I got kind of bored, but it's still not. There's no way to, in one sentence, tell people what Bitcoin is or how it
Well,
works.
and
You can't.
no, and I remember even some informants I had overseas would want to be paid in Bitcoin. And it was a big headache because you can't guarantee by the time it gets to their wallet and they empty their wallet, it's going to have the same value as what you agreed to pay them. So,
That's why I think there's, and I'm thinking more in the general terms of commerce, how,
mhm,
people are, we accept Bitcoin. Well, yeah, well, let me see if you accept it now or an hour from now when the price changes
right,
so
exactly.
dramatically. How can you
Right,
rely on something that's so volatile to be in the normal course of consumerism? I don't know how that would ever work. But
right,
this is not
right.
normal consumerism. So I can see this. I can see this as,
Mm.
I think Bitcoin's been as high as 100 grand per coin, and it's now down into the 70s, and it vacillates dramatically.
Right.
But if you
Mhm.
say give me 100 million in Bitcoin on the day you transfer it, it's gonna that's gonna be sorted out. It just might not be the
Right.
same number the next day. So
Correct. Correct.
yeah,
So,
I just
anyways,
think
yeah.
that, to me, the Bitcoin angle is just another little distraction. It just
Mhm.
seems to, ooh, look at, it's hip and it's happening and it's, these folks are high tech, and it
Right.
just doesn't square with all the other stuff, which is, you
Right.
mentioned, all right, why do you wait 2 days? I don't
Right.
know. I was busy. I didn't get around to sending my ransom note. And then why do you not give a deadline with some sort of finality to it?
Right.
Hey, Thursday at 5, that doesn't work out. We'll talk to you Monday. I mean,
Well, and I just think it's taking up resources that could be better spent in other places. Now, I do think
yes.
some of the best or the most crucial investigation, now that we have this timeline, you want to look at the major intersections that essentially box around this neighborhood and find where the cameras are. Where are the cameras that in the traffic system? And find what cars are out during that 45-minute hour window and identify them and run the plates and see, do you know any of these people? Has Nancy ever had any association with any of these people? I'm wondering, is it possible somebody had an ATV instead of a
Mm.
car and took her off on an ATV and, went, didn't use the roads, used land and went through people's yards? I don't know.
And there seemed to be,
Um,
to me, a great lack of, it's a crushed gravel driveway or some sort of, it's not cement.
mhm.
There's just no reference to finding something or nothing. So maybe
Mhm.
they were coming cross country from some other non-traditional transportation. And we also know it's just dark as hell out there.
Oh, it
Um,
really is, and I had never heard of light pollution
oh
before.
yes, oh
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay.
yes. You're not living in the wokest areas then.
No,
Yeah.
apparently not.
No, those who wanted to look at stars, and I love that, beautiful.
Mhm.
I've had people come visit me here, and I'm a little bit in a remote area,
Okay.
and they'll say that they're like, "Oh my god," that, like, they see, like, the Milky Way, because
Right.
there's no real light pollution. But there are people, in Tucson, they've got, I think, 1 million people in that county. It's not
Mhm.
exactly, the middle of nowhere. People
Right,
go
right.
there purposely looking for that kind of I'm touching nature, and so they're
Okay.
very serious about, don't pollute my vision at
My
night.
light. Okay.
Yeah, and so that's obviously, there's a downside to that.
Well, yes, and especially for a woman of her age. But I do think, she did have family nearby. She had camera systems. I mean, obviously, she really should have had a subscription. She did have staff that would come to her house to do different things around. So it wasn't like she was a hermit or that isolated. They immediately noticed she wasn't at church. She had a
Right.
normal routine.
Yep.
She had an Uber driver that she utilized. So she was still very much active and capable of living there. I just wonder, most crimes like this, it's somebody you've had at least some sort of interaction with on some level.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's just, who is it? Somebody in the family? Is it somebody in the extended family? Is it a neighbor? Is it staff? Is it someone from church? That's another thing. She was an extremely kind, generous, religious woman. We saw this with Elizabeth Smart when she was kidnapped. Her parents had given some work at their house to someone who was out of work, and then he ended up being one of the kidnappers. And so,
Mhm.
was she generous to someone at church, like, hey, you can come over and fix my gutters or
Of
whatever?
course, yeah. Or,
Yeah,
even if you take it another layer, somebody who knew her well enough to know her circumstances, then offhandedly mentions that to somebody else who doesn't have
right,
quite the moral center, and
right.
they act on that. So when we talk about the likelihood that she knew them, it could be, as I've described it, acquaintance to the most liberal level, right?
Right,
Somebody that's a
right.
friend of a friend knows of her. Random stranger makes no sense to drop in the middle of
Oh,
nowhere
no, no.
and
I mean,
find this target.
right. I mean, the Brian Koberger entering a house, I mean, even he sat outside that house minimum 23 times. So it's got to be someone that has cased the house or has had some interaction or familiarity. I mean, because who knows? Did she have any weapons? Is she proficient with a weapon? That's
Mm,
another thing. Does anybody know that? A
I've not
normal
heard a thing
person
about
wouldn't
that.
go a normal person wouldn't just enter a house if they didn't know if she could shoot them or not.
Yeah, let's talk about the camera thing again because it intrigues
Okay.
me, and the timeline is such that it creates more questions for me. So they have the camera has been disconnected. I think at
Right.
1:47 or something. Help me on the time if I'm off there.
Right.
And
147.
okay, and then there's about 15, 20 minutes later, I think is it 2:12? Then
212.
there's a detection of something. Well, it can't be detected on the camera that's been disconnected. It
No.
has to be on some other device.
Camera. Right.
But they don't
So
really tell us anything about that. Where it
no.
was, where, I don't know that people have 2 on their porch, but I guess you could. So you could have 1 from behind, shooting the front door, and then you could have the normal, in this case, not Ring camera, but a, Nest camera. But more
Right.
likely, it would be on some other part of the house, like the
You're
back.
right. By the garage or the back.
Yeah,
Right.
and the garage
Right.
in this case is, as you look at the property, it's on the right wall. It's not doesn't face the street. It's 90
Hmm.
degrees around the corner. So that would
Hmm.
give you coverage on that side if you had a camera there. That makes sense. That's also
Right.
where the light was in that general area, the one that's kind of dangling.
Right.
So when we talk about, let me jump back to the original ransom note, which references the Apple Watch and this light dangling.
Mhm.
You could glean that information elsewhere, especially if you don't
Right.
send your note for 2 days.
Right. 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 That was
Ju-
convenient. The fact that, those things in particular were mentioned, and yet those were big things that were mentioned by the media.
Oh yeah, huge, big
Right.
deal. Yeah.
Right.
And so now as they're sifting through the property again, clearly spurred, it seems, by whatever this latest contact information has been. And again, it went to KOLD. I saw a note saying they reported getting it at 11:45 this morning, which would be 1:45 our time. So they held on to it without saying much for quite a while. I mean, they're
Right.
doing what do you think they're doing? Trying to verify it as best they can that it's
I think they
something.
are. Right. Is it consistent with what they've received before? Where did it come from? Can they trace it? Is there any proof of life? Is there any sort of appointment made or request for an appointment or dialogue or further communication, or what does it demand?
And whatever they found, perhaps that led them back to the property to now start
Correct, to
further
look for something
looking.
else,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Here's a question
Which that's
from
interesting. That could be something.
I think that is interesting too. On this level, maybe they're looking to discount whatever they've been led to believe the letter says. Like this is a way of refuting what somebody said. We went and checked for this, this, and this, which they reference, and it doesn't pan out. It's not
Right.
legit. On the other hand, you're right. They may have put a few, dots together and said, now we're looking for perhaps, um, you know, the ultimate conclusion to this case on the property itself.
Oh,
Ellen Mark Weymouth, can the person who sent the fake ransom note be prosecuted? There was the person who
yes.
was sending text, and they've already been arrested.
Mhm.
What's that crime, and what's the kind of penalty we're looking at?
I think it's
It's a federal
demanding a
crime,
ransom.
right?
It's a
Yeah,
yeah, there are
federal,
two.
yeah.
He was charged with 2 counts. One, I think, is demanding a ransom through an interstate wire, and then I think the other one also has to do with, basically like a false reporting of a kidnapping, I think,
Okay.
something to that. I had never seen those statutes before, but I didn't work kidnappings, that
It's
right? I mean,
amazing.
I would shag leads, but I was never the lead case agent on a kidnapping.
Right, right. And I have to imagine in the last even 6 years, it's been accelerated in terms of that kind of mechanism to violate the law.
Right.
It's a new way to be a criminal.
Yeah,
I'm just
definitely.
looking through some of the notes here, see if we've got some more questions for you. Again, if you guys are just joining, Jodine Weber's here. Oh, wait a minute. Where's? Oh, there it is. Every chance I get
Oh,
to
thank you
promote the
so
book, I
much.
do. There it is.
Yes, thank
The
you.
Bald-Faced Deception. Yesterday? No, Wednesday, we had the second part of the book club. And I have to admit at the time, and I admitted it when we did the show, a little distracted because this whole thing was going on. And
Mhm.
but I did read part of the book. I read part of Lindsay. I thought it was important to get a sense of who she
Okay.
was right off the bat. She, of course, is the wife who lost her
As a
husband.
missing husband,
Yeah,
yes.
and later determined to have been, well,
Mhm,
dead and then maybe
mhm.
murdered. I don't know. I don't know. We don't know. We're not that deep into the book, but
Okay.
I hope my reading was not a crime in and of itself. So hopefully, folks who have the book or are going to get the book will continue to read along with that. And thanks for
Yeah.
joining today,
Oh, thank
former
you again.
retired special agent. So
Yes.
when you hear these kinds of stories and these, I mean, you can't help it. It's like when you know a second language and it just kind of kicks in.
Mhm.
When you first heard about this and the age of the alleged victim and the location and all those variables, what were your initial thoughts?
So, initially, I thought when I first heard it, I'm like, "Oh, I thought dementia. I thought a silver alert. That's what you think at first.
Okay.
But then when they said she's got her cognition, right away I said, "Follow the money." Who's got a
Okay.
life insurance policy? Who's in the will? Is there any elder abuse? Follow the money. Who's got motivation to get rid of her? What's in that house that has value that someone would want where she's in the way? And is it possible she hasn't been kidnapped and someone went there and murdered her and just took her body and disposed of her? I think that's something that people have gotten so distracted by this whole ransom letter thing.
Hmm.
We're not for sure that we have a kidnapping when you really boil it down. But who benefits if Nancy Guthrie is out of the picture? That's what you really need to focus on.
Yeah.
And so anytime you have a crime like this, you work it, you develop the victimology. Who is the victim? Who is in the closest circle around the victim? Who's their family members? What conflict exists there? Then who does that person interact with on a regular basis? Do they have employees? Do they have any enemies? If so, why do they have enemies? What vulnerabilities do they have? All those things you look at. And usually when you look at murders, quite frankly, of elderly, it usually involves finances. People are upset, they've
Mm.
been cut out of the will. People are upset they're not the executor over the estate. People try to put their names on bank accounts and parents don't let them, things of that nature. So right away, my thought was money is involved in this.
Yeah, it's always that fall of the money. And if this is a weird situation because it's not like, I mean, I haven't seen her bank accounts, but it's not like Nancy Guthrie, by any account, is rolling in dough. Has
Right.
a lovely home, and I'm sure she has some assets and net worth. Obviously, the big money in
Mhm.
the family is Savannah, but that's
Right.
such a attenuated kind of connection. How, are you suggesting somebody would do something to Nancy Guthrie outside of a ransom analysis that
Mhm.
would benefit by her being out of the picture because you're somehow what now closer to Savannah's money? I mean, I just I don't know how that works.
I don't know either. Or is it simply, I mean, and we think big time money, but there could be people, there could be a staff member where she fired them or terminated them and they no longer make, however much per month. And that's a lot of money to them. And so
Yes.
maybe, it's a revenge thing. And, they're mad because they're no longer employed. And when somebody, I mean, she's Savannah Guthrie's mother. If she fires you, what's your reputation in that town?
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about money for just a second, because the FBI has now thrown out the 50K as a
Mhm.
reward. And there's been
I think
some.
that's significant
Uh,
too.
okay.
That
Talk
the
about
the
that.
the amount, because to some people, $50,000 is nothing. Nothing. But to other people, that's
It's
a whole
life
year's
changing.
salary.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what does that tell
Absolutely.
you? That number and the FBI throwing it out there. What does that tell you?
Somebody blue collar.
Okay. Somebody
Mhm.
that could it could change their life. Whether it's
Mhm.
a service provider,
Right.
landscaper, somebody that
Mhm.
50K is like that's a big
That's a
payoff.
lot of money. That's a lot of money. And I don't want to get into politics, but not necessarily somebody who's born and raised in America. It could be an immigrant.
Mm.
That's a lot of money to send back to Mexico.
Mhm,
That's a
true.
lot.
And Tucson, about 60 miles north of the border. There's
Mhm.
never been any discussion as to whether or not this was an international crime, but certainly it has to be on the FBI radar, right?
Right. Well, and the good thing is that the FBI has outstanding relations with our counterparts in Mexico that we work with through our legal attache office there. So, there's so many border crimes and kidnappings and things that Phoenix office works, LA office works, some of our Texas offices work, that Mexico, they work quite a bit with the officials there.
Okay. And how does that work? I mean, I understand philosophically, but how does that work? You got connections like Corporal so and so in the Mexican, whatever.
So
What's their
we
version of the
so
FBI
we
then?
so we have legal attaches in multiple foreign countries around the world. And then we have the legat, who's the head of that office, and the assistant legal attache. And essentially, they work as liaisons for the FBI with the local law enforcement in major cities all around the world. And
Mm.
then when there is a crime where, say, a Mexican citizen is injured in America, the Mexican authorities can go to our legal attache office and request assistance from the FBI. And
Okay.
then it's reciprocal. We do the same when we have needs in their foreign territories. And so it really is a partnership. It works well in many countries all around the world. I utilized many of the legal attaches in the cases I had, worked a lot with different foreign governments, especially on terrorism type cases and following money around the world that funded terrorist cases. And so the local officials, they really do come through. It seems strange, but they will. And it's because of the reciprocity, the fact
Right.
that we will help them when they need the help.
Right, right. It does fly sort of in the face of what we believe to be the way the cartel does what the hell they want to do in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's like, are you working with the cartel or with the government? Who's really running the show anyway over there?
Mhm.
Dusty Rose, if she was killed at the house, would her pacemaker app detect her heart stopping? Could
So I've been
law
looking
enforcement get
into
that
the
information from her
pacemaker all
cardiologist?
day.
Okay.
I've been looking into that all day, and I've talked to different people, but a lot depends on the type of pacemaker you have.
Yep.
Now, I have one friend that her Bluetooth thing is on her nightstand, and she told me if she gets 8 feet away, it doesn't connect.
Wow.
There are other people that I know that have pacemakers that they have such an advanced model that their cardiologist can look in anytime around the world and would
Right.
know.
Right.
So I really would be curious, what has law enforcement done to see, is her pacemaker still working? I also want to know, okay, did she not have her Apple Watch on when she left the house? When was that taken off? Can they tell that from the device? And before it was taken off, do we see it registering her falling? Because a lot of
Mm.
times Apple Watches will register that. And I'd be curious if she had it on and was struck by an attacker in her home, fell, hit her head, started to bleed. They're getting ready to take her, which again, that's a big question. Why do you need to take Nancy? That's a big question in this case.
Yeah, I mean,
What
you
benefits
either
them?
have to believe she was kidnapped for a very
Right,
specific purpose, the whole go down the ransom rabbit hole, or
right,
something went wrong at the
right,
house.
right.
That maybe a
So,
robbery, burglary went sideways, and whomever was involved said, "We got to take her with us."
right. And I'd really like to know, when did that Apple Watch disconnect from her body? Was it at the 147 to 228 time frame, or did she take it off before she went to bed?
Mm. And there are two devices that I've been dying to learn more about. One is the pacemaker, and obviously the
Mhm.
cardiologist has the model, the make, all the specifications that could answer the questions that we have, which is what does it connect to? How far away from the device can it be? All of those things. And then
Right.
also the Nest cameras. I'm curious what their age and abilities were.
Mhm.
Were they ever cloud connected, subscription or otherwise? Were they the kind that work well in low light? Nothing would be more
Mhm.
frustrating than to get it, open it up,
And
find
it's black.
something, and it's basically
Right.
useless because it's an older model or even the best low level cameras, if there's truly no light,
It's
you're not
hard.
going to get much out
Well,
of it.
I have internal cameras in my house. I use Blink, and I'm very
Okay.
happy with my Blink cameras. And even though it's dark, you can see with them. You
Hmm.
can see, and especially if a person passes right in front of the camera, you can get a great facial shot.
Sure.
So I highly recommend the Blink cameras.
Okay. I've got a couple of different types. I've got Ring in and around, and then on the property itself, some more sophisticated cameras that don't have sound,
Mhm.
but they have built in for night vision a little red ring of light, which
Mhm.
isn't really visible to just the naked eye, but it's enough to illuminate whatever is in the field of that camera, and it gives you, of course, that ghostly
Right.
gray kind of
Mhm.
imagery, kind of spooky.
Mhm.
But it would capture, in pitch black, it will capture something.
Right, right. Well, I do think the FBI, they're gonna give it to the best of the best, and the FBI has the best of the best, and they will determine what, if anything, can be recovered from whatever systems and whatever cameras are out there. They're gonna deep dive her computers, and they're gonna look at
Yeah.
her phone. One tip I will tell everybody: if you have elderly parents, if you have college children, everybody should have your passcode to your phone, like the code written in an envelope and put in a drawer for a rainy day, just in case you ever need law enforcement to get in that phone in an emergency circumstance. Keep it in your safe, keep that locked up, but that way you have the code. If God forbid your mother disappears like Nancy Guthrie, you
Mm.
can pull out that envelope, open up, here's the code, and then law enforcement can look in your phone and look at your app and see, oh, here's the camera link. Here's what's on these cameras. They don't have to go and get search warrants right away to the camera company. They'll be able to
Mm.
look right on your phone at your apps. So keep your code somewhere. That is a big deal in a lot of cases and delays a lot of people, because law enforcement sometimes, like, look at the Murdoch case. It took them forever to break into Paul Murdoch's phone.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just something to keep in mind.
I do believe that whether you have Nest, Ring, Blink, and somebody else just go I think it was actually, that we just went zooming by. Somebody said they have Blink too. They're very happy with Blink.
Yeah.
Um, I believe, you might wanna buy those stocks now. As a
Yes.
result of this case, people are going to be much more aware that it's useless in many ways if you don't
Mhm.
have a subscription. You
Right.
know, you can call it up and see in the moment what
Right.
might be happening, but it doesn't have a
I
lot of longevity to it.
I think I pay $10 a month for
Yeah,
Blank. I
yeah,
mean, it's to me, that's
it's
inexpensive, but
cheap
maybe
insurance,
yeah,
really.
it really
Yeah.
is. And, some people say, "Well, your privacy, aren't don't you always feel like you're on camera?" No. My
Mm,
cameras are pointed at very specific areas, to if there's an intruder, and it will capture them in the areas I need it to capture. And so that's what I worry about.
yeah.
Am I safe?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I get it. It'd be nice to live in the 40s and 50s when those things were
Nobody locked their
no,
doors.
you
Right.
know, you go out and play until it gets dark, wherever you want to
Right.
go, and then you should be home. Yeah, well,
Right. No cell phone. Right.
those days are gone, unfortunately. So we're
Gone.
not getting
They're
anything
gone.
new from the scene yet. All the speculation that, again, for those who may not have heard this early on, another letter of some sort received by KOLD. There is some belief that it is, to some degree, confirmed to be the same source as the one letter that came out 2 days after the abduction or the crime, the disappearance. And that as a result, perhaps that led to what the cops are doing now, which is clear the street in front of Nancy Guthrie's home, and they are looking for something. That's about as vague and as specific as we can get. At this point in the process, 6 days in, and you talked about all the
Mhm.
things the FBI might be doing, looking at the electronic information and
Mhm.
computers. And are you surprised we're 6 days in without what I'd call a significant development?
Yes, we don't have a vehicle description. We don't have a suspect description. They pulled back the ground searches and the aerial searches very quickly. I'd really like to know what the reasoning was behind that. It didn't seem to go on very long. So I really think there's more, they know more than what they're telling us.
Mm.
I
And that's
really
okay.
do
I'm
believe
okay
that.
with that. Are you
Yeah.
okay with that?
I am okay with that. My big problem is the person that allegedly is leaking from law
Mm,
enforcement, that
mm,
there's been reports, oh, I have a source. Well, that source could be jeopardizing somebody's life and an investigation.
yeah,
So, I'm a big believer. You take an oath, you have to keep information case sensitive. Don't be a Michael Proctor and disseminate to whomever. And in this case, some are talking to the media and they're running with it. And law enforcement came right out and said, look, right at this point, this is not true. We do not have a suspect. We do not have a prime suspect. And they even caveated it by saying, you could really hurt somebody here. This
yeah.
person could be a victim. So I think that carries weight. And I think people should, be very, very careful before you accuse someone.
Yeah, it used to be back in the day, you'd have to have a couple of sources before
Two
you even
independent
thought about
sources.
doing something.
Now I will say, the person who reported this doubled down and tripled down and says, "Well, now you don't need two independent sources. Now
Hmm.
you just have to have a really big, good source." Well, I have a journalism degree. I never got that memo,
Didn't
so
you? You
I
missed that
don't. I don't
class.
know if I
You missed
agree
that
that. I don't.
class.
I guess so. I never got that. So, no,
Yeah,
I always had to have two, if not three, independent sources that confirm the information before it would air.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the last thing you want to do is impact an investigation, affect victims or family members on something
Mhm.
that is. I mean, one person could just be jerking you around and
Right,
enjoying the process.
right. That's right. And, look at what this has done. I mean, look at what Savannah's family is already going through. And if that turns out not to be true, oh,
Yeah,
I
well,
don't know.
think about I think we're talking about the same allegation about a
Yeah,
family member, right?
yeah, right,
And that came out before the family did their little sit down, and so
right.
you start thinking, could the wife of this person, be sitting there, calm, cool, and collected to the degree that she was for this very emotional moment, if in
Mhm.
fact her husband was involved somehow? I mean, it just defies
Well,
logic.
and my understanding is Savannah was staying at their home with them, and he was seen there as recently as Tuesday. So I I don't know. I just
Mm.
really think running with something with only one source is really risky.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheila Duffy. Sheila keeping her hand on the controls here, and we got your contact info. I think we had the book. We threw the
Oh,
book up
thank
there
you.
already as well. So,
Thank you.
what I mean, is this going to be just some wild, speculative weekend ahead of us? What do you think is going to happen
I
here?
think so. I think, the media, now that they know another letter or note has come in, they're going to be all over that. They're going to be all over, what is the FBI doing at her property? Why are they back? What are they checking? And I do think they're going to start wanting more information about, well, have you checked the cameras at the intersections? Do you have a
Mm.
vehicle? Give us something we can work with. The public's our bread and butter. Give us something people can
A-
do
And I
to
am
look for.
surprised. I mean, we're not seeing it obviously, but nothing of substance has been shared that reinforces how important the community is. And look what we
Right.
found as a result. We've talked
Mhm.
about the few intersections that there are, because once you leave kind of the main part of Tucson and head into this neighborhood, it's pretty rural and
Right.
hilly, and not a lot of cameras, municipal cameras, but there are a couple of major intersections that
Right.
you would have to go through to enter or exit this neighborhood. I mean,
Right.
at 1 to 2, 3 in the morning, how much traffic is there gonna be? How tough would that be to
And
to
there
go
has to
through
be a
each and every
gas
one of those?
station somewhere, a gas station. There are vehicles that go by in the night that have camera systems in them. So I think it will be interesting to see. I do think they know more. I just think perhaps, I think a lot, we haven't heard anything about, well, the prosecutors, but believe me, they're talking to prosecutors, and the prosecutors are the ones saying, well, we need this, or we still need this, or this isn't shored up enough.
Yeah,
So I think, and then too, they're waiting for laboratory testing. Not all their laboratory testing has come back.
right.
They
They
could
did
have
the
DNA.
Yeah, they did the blood spots on the porch, which they've confirmed was in fact Nancy Guthrie's blood. Not a huge surprise there. And they said it was found inside, but not. We don't know to what degree, um,
Right.
and what other DNA tests were done. What were they swabbing? What were they testing? Not just
Mhm.
in the house, but what areas, what items,
Mhm.
what is it and why? Was there a certain
Right.
area that was disrupted, and they felt like they needed to swab more than an area that looked untouched? I mean, we know
Right.
none of that. We don't know any of that.
Mm-mm. I don't know, but I feel terrible for this family. I feel
It's brutal.
terrible for, it's just devastating. And everybody's invested. Everybody's got a mom, everybody's got an 84-year-old relative, and what did this lady ever do to them?
No, I mean, the salt of the earth by all accounts, and the same with Savannah. Good luck finding
Savannah,
something,
right?
negative about her, right?
No, everybody
Um,
I know in the media that works with her or has worked with her says she's absolutely lovely.
yeah, and so smart. So she's,
Mhm.
trained as an attorney, was an attorney before she went to Court TV, which is where I worked with her.
Mhm.
We worked on the Masawi trial. That was the first case we worked on,
Oh,
the
okay.
19th, hijacker in Wash
Yeah.
That's when Court TV had a Washington, D.C. bureau, and so I spent some time down there
Okay.
when I first came to the company with her, and we were switching off covering that, and not long after that, she went to NBC.
Mhm.
But yeah, she's the best, and, to
Yeah.
see her just, in this, it's heartbreaking.
It's
It's heartbreaking.
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. Well,
Okay. Well, I appreciate the time. I do. And one more time, let me give the plug to the
oh,
book one more time.
thank you. And thank you for having me back. And thank you for
Of
choosing my
course.
book for your book club.
Of course. Yeah, I think people are enjoying reading it. I'm getting the notes that say that. And I did
Good.
pass along, I told you, just in case somebody wants an autograph version
Yes.
I passed along that information. They can go into your site and basically
Yes.
request an autograph plate or
Yes,
label,
it's a
right?
plate and you can stick it in your book and
Slap
I'll
it on
send you
there.
a bookmark. And
Cool.
yes, absolutely.
Cool. All right. Very
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Well,
thank you.
thank you, Michael.
I know you're going to be on top of this, so there may be additional outreach
No
from us here
problem.
at
Anytime,
JSTV.
my friend.
Okay. Take
Anytime.
care. Have a great evening.
Thank you. All right.
Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Jodine Weber. Check out her book, as we have been on the book club here. In the meantime, we're waiting like everybody else to hear something of substance. I just get a little cranky when I see this dog chasing his own tail kind of stuff that just to me seems to be happening for publicity purposes, not with any real regard for finding the perpetrator or perpetrators and giving some comfort to the Savannah Guthrie family. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's just never been the way I do business. So anyway, good to have you on. We appreciate it here at Justice Served TV. Linda is on the mend. I think she snuck into the chat, but I was busy and didn't get to her. She'll yell at me for that. Have a great weekend. We will be on top of the story, of course. Next week I'll be gone. Linda is in charge. She's got the con, and I will be doing a couple of reports from overseas as they develop. But then I'll be back here on whatever that following week is. So have a great week, a great weekend, and hopefully this will all turn out for the best for the Guthrie family. Take care. Michael Bryant here. This is Justice Served TV. Please try to do the right thing.
Riding flames, they charge me.